Hey everybody out there, this is Andrew Walker from Mise Watch. We've got another exciting match today. It's a top 16 match between number 1 Mike Phillips on Green White Enchantress, and his opponent is number 16 Gabe on Tropical Enchantress. So Mike's version similar to the Lobstercon version, whereas the version by Gabe is a bounce version with Words of Wind, and he's got Words of War in there with one land to get in play, two replenishes could also do the same thing. Let's get it out there. But might as well get to the match. It's recorded, but the guys didn't get audio recorded, so they both decided, hey, how about we do commentary through the match? So let's see if I can get this done right and get the audio running. Okay. So you were saying you guys, one of you had mulligan down to
All
4 to
right.
start?
So yeah, so me, this is Gabe BL on the right. I mulligan to 4, and I think Michael mulligan to 6.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So here I think we are on turn 2 already because we started recording late. So I think I don't know if Michael, you were on like Forest Guile on the first turn.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
so I think turn three ish. I started on Guile turn one, and then Sanctum and uh, Wild Growth on two. Not a lot to cast here. Just
Yeah.
basically like looking for the top of my library to deliver anything of value. And like here, I found the Enchantress. So
Yeah, I think I did. I mulligan to 4, but I was able to do Forest Wild Growth and then drop the Enchantress on turn 2.
was yours a blind Enchantress, or did you have it in your opening hand?
I think I had it on my opening hand. I think I was Forest Wild Growth, Enchantress, and something else. I don't know if it was the Sanctum. Yeah, so it was a pretty good mulligan to 4. And I think I top decked then the
Yeah,
presence.
already I'm thinking I'm in trouble here. Like, my experience in any Enchantress Mirror has been um, who gets the engine online faster really has an advantage. Um, because while one person is just going off and um, gaining tons of card advantage, the other is basically trying to play catch up.
Yeah, I think this is even truer in my case because I have no interaction towards you. I don't have any way to destroy enchantments. I
Mm-hmm.
have ways to bounce creatures, but I cannot bounce your Enchantress, and I will need to wait until Opalescence is on, which is too late already.
Mm-hmm.
So my thinking was, this is a race to combo before you can assemble your Opalescence and wave stuff.
I agree with that. I think also because there's not really a lot of targeting that your deck does when you start to combo off, aside from maybe like the Words of War. Um, you know, cards to try and like protect my life total and my like a solitary confinement isn't going to do a whole lot in this particular case because your deck is so good at bouncing and recycling the same cards over and over and over again with Words of Wind that any plan of, well, I'll just try and sit behind this card the entire game doesn't work because eventually you go off and then you bounce my whole board. So my line of thinking in these games was that I just have to go as fast as I possibly can. I have to um, get my combo online before you can get yours, and just try and um, completely destroy your board with it.
Yeah.
Um, but your combo's very consistent, and I think you can go off as early as turn 3 or 4. Is that right?
Yeah. I think here we are in turn 4, I believe. I think the tricky thing here was access to blue mana, especially with the mulligan to 4.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I think there's a fertile ground under the Sanctum that started the engine going because I definitely need access to 1, 2 blue mana for the whole combo to work. So I think I here got the fertile ground, got to draw triggers, and then I'm starting to play with the frantic search, which is amazing when you have so many enchanted lands for free mana.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I have this 3D printed dice here to keep track of all the mana because this is a pretty this deck. You need to track a lot of leftover mana every time you bounce stuff around.
Yeah, I was very impressed with how you handled. You know, I have this much mana of this color every single turn, and how you kept track of it. I've played Tropical Enchantress a little bit online, and you know, it does all the the tracking for you. But I've never attempted it on paper. But one of the things that always came to my mind was, okay, if I were to play Tropical on paper, what would be my ideal method of keeping track of exactly how much mana I have, exactly what colors I have, and which ones of those colors that I'm spending every turn. Um, because I think it's very important to be very specific in terms of what mana you're using. If you know, because if you're not careful, then you could find yourself in a situation where you need to cast a blue card, but oops, I
Yeah,
don't have any blue mana. So I was very, I found it very easy to, as the opponent, to be, uh, to also be able to keep track of what you were doing. I think you did a really, really good job.
appreciate it. Yeah, it's easy to fizzle if you make a mistake spending the wrong mana.
You're right.
Yeah, but I think here I already have the engine online. So we're in the same turn already. I don't think I have done a land drop yet. But you know, by recycling mana with the frantic search and yeah, and the cloud of fairies that's down there, I was able to play, you know, multiple blue spells with only one source of blue. And I think here I ran out of blue mana, but luckily I had the coast in my hand after all the drawing. And that I think at this point we're discussing which turn we are
Yeah.
in and whether I have a fourth land drop. But I think we end up agreeing that we're on turn
Yeah.
4.
You know, when it came to that turn, like there was just so much going on. There's so much that I was also trying to keep track of, and things that I was thinking about. It's just, you know, when I saw the land drop happen, I was like, well, that looks odd. Um, Not, you know, I didn't think you were like trying to cheat or anything like that. It just looked odd. So I just felt it appropriate to, you know, just kind of stop and reevaluate exactly where we were, just because I was uncertain. And, you know, um, but yeah, we both agree that you do have a land drop to make. It just took us a little while to get there.
Yeah,
But look at this board though, man. You got 4 enchantresses online. You got the Cloud of Fairies and the Words of Wind. It's just like I don't even know what I could hope to even draw here to get me out of this. I certainly don't have enough mana to be able to, you know, Opal Wave in one turn. Um,
yeah. I think here maybe a swords, you know, with triggers on the stack to you know remove the cloud of fairies might be a good thing.
mhm.
But yeah, you don't have also instant speed enchantment removal, I believe, because it's all like seals.
Yeah, yeah.
Of
We both kind of play at sorcery speed for the most part. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think at some point we will
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
And yeah,
You know, these enchantress boards also get very complicated, you know, with like just the board state and what's in play. It's just like I said, I think it was just a good idea to just stop and just reevaluate what exactly is going on. And like I said, we both came to the same conclusion, so it's good.
yeah. I was thinking what you were saying about playing these online, and it would track the mana better, but just the amount of clicks you would do in tropical at the time.
Yeah, I definitely think that if you were playing this in a timed round, um, that having some method of shortcutting um, would be very useful. I don't know exactly what that is, um, but it can get.
You did have the
Yeah,
swords.
yeah, I did.
Yeah, I think here you were casting swords in response from me. I don't know if it was bouncing it, and I think we were discussing whether you were doing before the bounce or do. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was been holding the swords just waiting for whatever bounce ability or spell you're going to use, whether that was the words of wind or the or like a, what was it called, seal of
Seal of cleanse. No, seal of removal. Yeah, the blue
yeah.
one. Hmm.
um
Yeah, so I think you cast swords. I think mistakenly I put it on the graveyard. Doesn't matter much, but
yeah, I didn't even notice
yeah.
that actually.
Yeah, it's the first time I see this.
I'm looking at this board state and I'm feeling like my days are numbered here. I'm doing my best here to keep my Enchantresses in play. I'm bouncing the cheapest cards I can with the, hopefully if I get to untap, being able to recast them again. Hopefully
Mhm.
relatively free, rather than bouncing something like a presence and then having to spend a whole bunch of mana the next turn. Um, the only thing that's really going to get me out of this is powering up this Sanctum, which is hard to do in this current board state, but with 1 mana enchantments and a couple of draw triggers, things can go a certain way that it might get there.
Mhm.
Exploration is a card that I'm hoping to find. I don't think I have any in my hand, but
I think here I went to second main
mm-hmm.
to
Yeah,
empty
because I
because
had
you
mana
still
flow.
had 2 white mana there, and I was kind of spooked by it. And I had drawn a second Cloud of Fairies with all the drawings with the 4 Enchantress effects, and I think I'm able to go up. I think this turn.
Yeah, that card's been very impressive, um, especially when you have a Sanctum in play.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody. I guess many people is familiar with the combo, but just to explain it. So you need access to 2 lands that can produce 5 mana, and at least two of those mana need to be of a specific color. And then just you tap those lands for mana. You play the fairies, which untap your lands, and then you play a 1 mana enchantment. You get multiple draw triggers, but you use 2 of them with the Words of Wind to bounce another cheap enchantment and a Cloud of Fairies, and you net some mana, and then you just repeat, and you keep doing that, and you will bounce the whole board of the opponent. And that's like the first stage of the combo. And then once you have that, you are free to just keep playing spells and enchantments and bouncing. So you keep drawing your deck until you find Words of War. And with Words of War and infinite mana and infinite draws means you inflict infinite damage. So that's the first avenue of winning with this deck. And I think here you scoop. Um, yeah, because I think you already see that I can finish the combo, although we don't do the whole sequence.
When you're going off with your combo, right? And you said you need a 1 mana enchantment. Do you favor any particular 1 mana enchantment to make that work, or is it just you'll take any 1 mana enchantment that you happen to have at that point?
So if I have access to both colors of mana easily with some fertile grounds, exploration and seal of removal are the easiest ones because you can also do it with wild growth, but it's tricky because you want those enchantments on the lands so that they produce mana when you tap them. So then you need to be more careful with the sequencing so that you don't bounce the enchantment before you tap the land so that you generate the extra mana and so on. So if I can avoid it, I would rather have enchantments that don't enchant my lands because it makes the whole thing easier.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah. And if you have enough colorless mana, then it really doesn't matter. You can go with, Sylvan libraries or whatever, because usually the colorless or like white mana, which we take for colorless at least here, because don't have any
Mhm.
white spells. Usually you have that with a lot of surplus.
Now, talk about how
Yeah.
you sideboarded here Oh,
And where else I did? Yeah, the plains for a forest. And I think I'm not sure if that was it. I was thinking whether to do a curse totem, so it would kind of block you of the opalescence combo, but I think I didn't get it in the end. So what I took out, I think it was a couple of the enchant lands. I think maybe one wild growth and one fertile ground, and I believe I took also the seal of removal, maybe one or two, and a cloud of fairies, something like that. It was
okay,
almost like one off of the three blue cards and the two enchant lands.
gotcha. So basically, just kind of trimming like one across the board for the most part.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
think I entered seven, right? I had two tides, two replenish, two seal of cleansing, and a plains. Took down a forest, and then six random cards within, like I think one each of frantic search, cloud of fairies, seal of removal, then a wild growth, and fertile ground. And I might have been playing with 61. Yeah, I got to
fair
play
enough.
like whatever. Yeah. I cannot spend more mental energy thinking what to cut. I'll just go with 61.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like mine was pretty easy. I have 4 swords in the matchup or in the main deck, and that's uh, my response to tie really high in the. So here it's not a great card. So -4 swords was an easy cut, and then I didn't think that a solitary confinement would do any good. I figured by the time a Words of War would come down, I probably would not be able to keep it in play and sit behind it the entire time. So I brought in 2 Aura of Silence, 2 Tormod's Crypt because I figured you were bringing Replenish in, and 2 Carpet of Flowers because
Hmm.
Carpet of Flowers not particularly great. You don't play a ton of islands. You did play 4 of them, but my thought was even if you don't play your islands out, um, I'm looking for speed and having access to more copies of 1 mana enchantments that can get me off the ground, draw me some cards, power up my Sanctum faster. I think is something I wanted to see in this matchup, regardless of how many islands you played. I've even brought Carpet of Flowers for that same reason and against other Enchantress mirrors, just simply because like I said, just trying to power out everything.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, makes sense. I think you yeah, here it comes, a carpet of flowers. So
mhm.
here we must say we both mulligan to 4. Somehow you were able to do turn 2 Enchantress, turn 3 presence with a mulligan to 4. I think you had like, was it like two in like the two cards and then a forest and something else to
Yeah,
be able to play on curve.
I believe my opening hand was Forest Plains, or the 4 that I kept was Forest Plains, Argothian Enchantress, Enchantress's Presence. And I think for my first turn, I drew another Forest. Everything else was just coming off the top.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah, so
in a
you're
mulligan to
way ahead
4.
of me here. I think we're in turn maybe 4 because I need a land drop, and you're already 5 lands and 2 lands. You have 2 Enchantress effects.
Yeah, this is exactly the scenario that I was talking about. Like, just trying to accelerate and go fast as fast as I possibly can, um, before your combo comes online. I think I cast this Parallax Wave. I can't remember if it was the only enchantment left in my hand at that particular point. Um, but I don't always like casting it early. But sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, draw some cards, and hope to
Yeah,
find more enchantments.
yeah, especially with an exploration.
Hmm.
Even if you draw lands, you're gonna use them. So yeah, it keeps you ahead.
Yeah, and then here's a Sanctum and a Sterling Grove to try and protect, like a Seal Cleansing coming down next turn or something along those lines. Did I find it? Oh, yeah. Oh, no, that's another Parallax Wave. Okay. I can remember if I... can't exactly remember what was in my hand at this point. There's a Tormod script.
Yeah, I have to tell you that it did matter a lot, this Torment script.
It did or did not?
It did, yeah. So I think I have a replenish at some point during this game that I don't even play or discard or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it will also happen on next game. And then I started thinking, oh, there was ways I could have, interacted with the crypt. But yeah, at this point I was, yeah, I already knew that I wouldn't be able to outrace you.
Yeah, it's another card that I really like to try and hold on to as long as possible. I'm not a big fan of casting it early in the game and just letting it sit there because it could be vulnerable to a removal spell against certain matchups where you really want to hold on to it. But I think at this point I was just trying to get cards out of my hand so I didn't have to discard, and it's free. So
Yeah.
I wasn't exactly afraid of Replenish just yet, but it's good to know that even in this sequence of events, that Tormod's Crypt was being a pain for you. I suppose, there's still the idea that you could, like Frantic Search into a Replenish just out of nowhere, because I know the Replenish deck does that quite often. So
Actually, you can see here I discarded the replenish.
yeah, I have to admit, that felt really good.
Yeah. And I had access to white mana because I think there's a fertile ground on the coast.
Oh, so there is. Yep.
Yeah, so I would have been able, without the Torment script, I think I would have tried going through a replenish line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always the scary thing, right, with Frantic Search, is that card enabling I'm going to put exactly what I want in the graveyard on cast Replenish, and then boom.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Parallax died. That card is such a beating.
Yeah, it's. I find myself like sideboarding it in almost all the matches. So I think if I were to do another iteration of this deck, I think I would try to do something like a Treba deck, and have it online always in the main board with some seals also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like better the sideboarded version of this deck than the main deck version. And here I think I removed some of your lands, but it really doesn't matter much.
Yeah, you targeted 5 lands, cut me off of white mana. I don't think I think you did get a Sanctum as well. But look at this Carpet of Flowers just hanging out, not producing any mana, not doing
I think
anything.
you're gonna drop a Sanctum, I think, this turn. Yes. If this maybe wasn't on the other game, but I remember thinking, yeah, I got the Sanctum, and then next turn you yeah, here it is.
Yeah, I think what I was trying to count up here was, do I have enough mana to crack my Sterling Grove, put Opalescence on top of my library, cast another enchantment, and then still have mana left over to actually cast the Opalescence.
Mhm.
So I think that's what I was counting towards, and I believe I came up with the proper amount of mana here. Yep. So there I go to go get out Opalescence, because it's not always enough to put it on top of your library. And if you see, I cast the Mirror's Guile first. I don't think I had the Sanctum in hand yet. So I'm not sure if it was a sequencing error, if I just had to find the Sanctum first, but yeah.
Mhm.
And then here are the combos online. Attack.
Yeah, I think at this point, I think I try a Hail Mary on the next turn, but with the aura, you already like blocked most of my game.
Now, the reason I attack here first before removing your Cloud of Fairies is because I want to remove your Cloud of Fairies permanently. But if I were to activate my Parallax Wave and then blink it, then that's just one less creature I can attack with. Which is why I'm like, fine, you can block, and then I'll blink everything afterwards. Just because I wanted to keep as many enchantments attacking as I could there.
Mhm.
And then here I use the combo just to untap my stuff. Is something I really like about this combo is that you can alpha strike your opponent, and then if it's not lethal, there's still a good number of creatures that have haste in Premodern, so being able to blink out your own enchantments and have blockers up the next turn sure does make doing combat math a whole lot easier.
Yeah. Would you do it? You always do it on your turn, or do you wait until they declare attackers to untap your board?
I usually will do it on my turn because this allows me to reset my Parallax Wave to 5 counters, and if I wait to do it during their turn, it's possible that the Parallax Wave could have 4 counters, 3 counters, 2 counters, and then you open yourself up to an opponent having some sort of like instant speed interaction, like a naturalize, ray of revelation, or something along those
Got
lines. So it's just I like doing it on my turn to keep as many counters on the Parallax Wave as possible, basically at all times. Yeah.
So I obviously scooped here, and we go to game 3, and I believe I go down to 6.
Did you change anything in your sideboarding going into game 3 here? Did you leave it as the same as it was?
It's the same because, like all the others, like Carpet of Flowers, it's useless. Shanted Swarm, useless. Elephant Grass might be useful. I don't know, but I mean, if you're attacking with your enchantments, you already have ways to remove the Elephant Grass anyway. So yeah, I think I left everything as is.
Yeah, and as did I. I didn't see any reason to. I already brought in all the cards that I wanted to have access to in the matchup, and certainly there wasn't anything else on my board that I was wanting to have here.
So it seems we're both of us on turn 2 Enchantress. You have also a Mirror's Guile. So pretty fast start.
Yep. You've got the Sanctum, and that's I'm already seeing such an early Sanctum, knowing how powerful that card is very scary right now. But I think based on the fact that we both mulliganed here and going into game 3, like I don't know if either of us could ask for a better hand here. At least to get us out of the gates running here.
So I tap to put a Fertile Ground for the forest for a Cloud of Fairies to untap everything. And now I have access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana, I think. Yeah. Well, I never thought that the dice appear mirrored, so the choose looks like 5s. I didn't thought of that when I printed them. Yeah. Maybe I should have different dice for online play. Okay, so I already have the Words of Wind and some leftover mana that I end up not using.
Yeah, I'm struggling for white mana here. I have a lot of enchantment removal in my deck, and I'm digging as hard as I possibly can to try and get to it. But as you can see, I'm only casting green spells and I only have green mana. But you've already got Words of Wind and Cloud of Fairies on the board. That's very, very scary.
Yeah, on turn 2 actually, right? On turn 3.
Yeah.
Turn 3, yeah. That's yeah. So I'm missing a land drop, which not ideal.
I forget. So. Do you find it useful in a situation like this to skip your draw step, replacing it with the words of wind to bounce like a 1-man enchantment, or do you feel like you're just better off, drawing randomly off the top
I
of
mean,
your deck?
in a different with like a different opponent, I would definitely consider that. Or especially if you have like a Sylvan library and you can, bounce 3 permanents.
Mm-hmm.
Against you, no, because I would you would bounce a 1-mana spell, and it just like I'm giving you 2 free cards on the next turn, so it wouldn't really help me. But if I have an opponent that has like 3 permanents, I'm happy like skipping my draw step, bouncing one of them, then playing like bouncing one of cheap enchantments and playing it again, and maybe bounce another permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like freezing my board to bounce 2 permanents. I've done it. Yeah, I think here I'm digging for something. I just did a frantic search. I get some leftover mana, and yeah, I think I'm looking for lands.
Oh, the math.
Yeah, I was looking. There's not many like matches of Tropical Enchantress on YouTube. I think there's one with Rich Shea, which he designed the deck, and he did all the math like in his head. I was thinking that like, I cannot keep track like this. And he did like very naturally, like if he had like a notepad that he was just doing, he was winging it. And
Yeah.
yeah, I really without the dice, I don't know how I would do it.
Yeah, same. Most of the time that I play this on Magic Online, right? The only thing I'm worried about most of the time is like how much blue mana do I have, and then when I go to cast something, making sure that I don't accidentally spend my blue mana, feeling like the total number of mana I have is arbitrary because I can always just look at it at a glance. I never have to ask the question, well, how much mana do I have?
Mm-hmm.
On paper, though, it looks very intimidating. Trying to keep track. I don't know how to keep track of it in your head. That's insane. But look at
Yeah,
this. Look, you've already drawn like 4 cards off of this like one exploration, right? Like
yeah. But I
you
keep
are
bouncing stuff for you, and I don't think that's the optimal play. But I guess I'm keep doing it because I need enough lands. Enough enchantments bounced to keep it, but keep it going.
but
I
you
think at
are
some point, yeah, I find a fetch. So now I have the third land. Sorry.
churning and burning, which is very, very good. Um Now I just have a bunch of wild growths in my hand. I don't know. Um
Yeah, but with the Mirror's Guile and you draw 6 with your 3 wild growths. I don't know if this is like a good play by me.
I'm digging as hard as I can. I'm like, I need white mana, I need a sanctum. I wish I could remember what was in my hand at this point, but honestly, I can't even remember. This seal of cleansing, though, I do remember thinking like, well, I can't just be arbitrary about everything that I cast here because the seal of cleansing um, is still looming. So if I wanted to drop something um, important, I still have to be cognizant that that seal is on the board.
I think I
I
made
think
here a crucial mistake. You're gonna play a Seal of Cleansing at some point and tap like all your lands, spend all your mana. And I think with that Seal of Cleansing, you will draw a Sanctum and you will play it. So if I had, in response to your Seal of Cleansing, if I had cleansed your Exploration, I would have cut you completely from playing the Sanctum because you had already played the. Yeah. Here, I should have gone for your Exploration because then you were like, you didn't have any more mana, anything else to do.
Mm. Yeah.
And not doing that allows you to play the Sanctum and now you explode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember thinking with this Tormod script, because there's a replenish already in the yard. I was like, please use your Seal of Cleansing on this Tormod script.
Yeah, here I was kicking myself for not having thought of the Exploration. Because now you have like 7 mana and now all your dangerous stuff is white.
Yeah, I remember 7 being a number that was a huge problem. I forget exactly what's in my hand. I think I have
I think you have a Grove at least and a or you end up playing a Grove and a Wave.
yeah, I remember 2 things about this. I remember 1, I'm out of green mana, which is a problem. I have a whole bunch of white mana, and then I don't have 8 white mana. I'm stuck on 7. So I remember sitting here thinking for a long time about what I'm going to do about that, because
Well, here you have sealed my Words of Wind, so you've cut me off of my primary engine.
mhm. I remember feeling pretty good about that because I've got the replenish covered for the. I got the seal off, or the words off the board. I've got the graveyard covered with the Tormod script for now. I remember feeling pretty good here, but I do remember this 3 floating mana on my Sanctum being a problem because I was, I think, 1 short from doing what I wanted to do. And something else to note here, like, I have a lot of anti-enchantment hate, and so far all I've managed to come up with is a Seal of Cleansing, like 1 copy of Seal of Cleansing.
Yeah.
So I remember thinking like that there's a lot of cards that I really, really want to draw into here, but just can't seem to find.
Yeah, I think a single aura would have been.
Yeah, there I discarded a bunch of Enchantresses and Sterling Grows. I think what I'm trying to do here is set up a replenish. If I remember correctly, I think I have the replenish in hand. I think that's part of the problem, is that I only had 3 mana left over, and not 4. So this Parallax Wave, excuse me, this Parallax Wave is certainly vulnerable to your Seal Cleansing, especially if I try to like cast an Opalescence or something. But
Yeah, I think I had a Parallax Tide in hand, and I was saving it to do the land removal trick. Because it's pretty difficult to do the land removal with Tropical. Because you need, if you don't do it with the Seal of Cleansing, if you want to do it with Words of Wind, you need a way to do like instant speed drawing, and we don't have that many sources here. We have the Frantic Search, and we have, I guess you can cycle the fairies and maybe trade routes, but it's there's not a lot of ways. So I think I was saving my seal for that.
mm-hmm.
But maybe it was the wrong move.
So this second Enchantress that you just dropped is pretty scary. I do remember in a lot of these turns feeling like, oh man, like if I don't kill him this turn, he's just gonna tap and kill me. Uh, you know, Enchantress decks just have this innate ability a lot of the time to just do so many things in one turn that even sometimes an arbitrary board state can be can end up
Yeah.
becoming a lethal board state. Um,
It's tricky to think
just
like 2 turns in advance because you don't know what's gonna happen within that other turn. Yeah, here I forget the legend rule and I play a Sanctum, and you have to remind me to sacrifice the one I have.
yeah. But look at this. You have 8 floating mana with the Sanctum. That's insane.
Yeah, I think I'm fishing here for some untap ability. So either Frantic Search or the Fairies,
Mhm.
or maybe casting a Seal of Removal to bounce my own Fairies and then play it back. Because I think, yeah, with the island, there's a fertile ground below, so I have double blue. Yeah, really, access to blue mana is critical here.
You're right. They do look like 5s.
And here it is what I was waiting for, yeah.
Yeah. No. This looks devastating here. I remember my heart just sank when that Parallax Tide came down because I have this great board state right now, and a lot of 3, 4, 5. I have ways to protect myself from it, and there they go.
Yeah, so here I think, yeah, yeah, I was trying to get all the white sources. Yeah.
So now my I would say my route to winning the game, my plan to how I was going to win this game just went out the window with that Parallax Tide. So now I have to come up with something else, um, and try and rebuild my mana as fast as I can before you just like get your combo online. Um, I remember feeling that I remember thinking that I'm very much on it here now. That Parallax Wave getting rid of what I can do to protect myself. I could try to rebuild afterwards, with
Mhm.
Carpet of Flowers and Sarah Sanctum, but sometimes, they just remove 3 lands, 4 lands, or 5 lands, and sometimes it's just enough to just halt your game plan in its tracks until there's, until they find themselves a situation that they can get here. So
But
this
here
is
you
this
have
is
the third Sanctum,
yeah.
and with the carpet you have green and white, so that's ideal.
So this is something that I really wanted to so I had to think for a really, really long time. My choices here were to cast either a replenish and bring back a whole bunch of, mana sources and, enchantments to the battlefield, or play the Aura of Silence that I have in my hand, because I couldn't do both. Right? I did not have enough mana to do both. And um I figured this was going to give me the best avenue to for victory, because now I have a powered up Sanctum, and I seal a cleansing your Enchantress here, because what I'm worried about is that you're just going to untap and just go completely nuts, right?
Mhm.
Just draw a bunch of cards with double Enchantresses, and then my one little seal of cleansing, won't matter. So my thought process here was, let me cut you off of enchantresses to make your draws less viable, and maybe I can just if I can just survive one more turn, I think I've got you, because I'm like counting up my mana. I can use my forest that has a bunch of wild growths on it to go get my opalescence, draw it for my turn, use my sanctum to cast opalescence, um,
Mhm.
which is why I chose. Which is another reason why I chose to cast a replenish over the aura silence. Um,
Yeah. I do have, I think, a seal of cleansing, the second one, on my hand. So I don't know if I would be able to, like, if I'm able to destroy your aura, if maybe that opens me for a better board state than, or like a better route than the one we have now, because you would have a weaker board.
Absolutely. Like the board state would have been weaker. The Sterling Grove, was in the graveyard, so there would be nothing to protect it.
Mhm.
And that was certainly something that could come out. It's just like, well, just seal a cleansing your aura of silence. I blow something else of your board up. Like, who cares? Now I just go off. Um, you know, go
Yeah,
do your combo or whatever. So I feel like the replenish was my best route to victory, especially with the Sterling Grove being there, so that I could try and sack it next turn.
yeah, I agree.
So here you put two more enchantresses in play, and this is something
Yeah,
I was really impressed with, like just kind of seeing the deck in action. Right, your Sarah Sanctum is already powerful, right? Because you play a lot of enchantments, like just like I do, but watching you tap a Sarah Sanctum and then untap it with Cloud of Fairies or Frantic Search or whatever. After casting other enchantments along the way and seeing like, okay, well this tap it now, it taps for 4, cast a couple more enchantments, do an untap. Now it's it's tapping for 7 or 8. Like watching it grow over the course of a single turn with multiple untaps was just really, really cool to watch. It just really
hmm
shows the power of Sarah Sanctum as a card, I think.
yeah. It's one of the things I like of the deck. It's you can do a lot of things within a turn, and like it keeps growing and growing and growing, and you just hope it doesn't deflate. Right? You hope you get to the end within the turn. So here
Right.
I'm like, I think I played a seal of removal. I was obviously gonna bounce my Cloud of Fairies. So before I can do it, you waived it. Yeah.
Yep.
So I
So
think with the seal on the stack, you and I there's my lonely Cloud of Fairies on the bottom right corner, and it's not gonna be lonely for long.
yeah, again, I'm just waiting for a bounce card to come onto the stack to remove the Cloud of Fairies. This is like the only play option that I have. Like I'm tapped out of mana. I all my most of my stuff is sorcery speed anyway. So like this is all I've got. I've got
Yeah.
a Torvald script to try and protect myself against replenish, and I have a parallax wave against Cloud of Fairies. Like that's it.
So it's another Cloud of Fairies that you're gonna leave untouched until it's bounceable. Here I thought of a line that might have saved me because I had a replenish in hand. So I think that the way to go would have been to play replenish. I guess you would have cracked the crypt in response,
Hmm.
and then before replenish uh, is resolves, just use my seal on your grove, and then it will come back, and then I can seal your wave. I didn't thought of that at the moment, but I think that would have been an avenue because you already have, I think, 2 fairies now because you
Yep.
waved the second one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was thinking about is like, man, if he finds a way to like destroy this parallax wave or something, like he could have multiple Cloud of Fairies all come back at the same time, all have these untapped triggers that he can then. I was wondering if I was like even helping you,
Mhm.
in the sense that like if he gets rid of this parallax wave, like he's gonna have a whole bunch of untapped triggers. with these Cloud of Fairies. So it's getting kind of scary when you kept playing multiples of them. It wasn't just one; it was 3, I think.
Yeah, I think there's ended up being 3, which is I think all of them, because one of the Cloud of Fairies was taken out to the sideboard.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, my brain is like completely convinced that your enchantments are untouchable. Although, yeah, as I said, there was a possible line with replenish to kill the wave, but I cannot think of it in the moment. So I'm just trying to think, okay, how can I win without the combo? Without the Cloud of Fairies, there's no way to the continuous infinite mana stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the few times where this card has been critical, which is trade routes that I just played.
I know Rich Shea, when he was on Tropical, he talked very highly of trade routes. I don't want to misquote him or put words in his mouth, but I believe he said like trade routes was a way to ensure that your combo keeps going, or that your deck keeps going when you just kind of stall out, or if
Yeah,
you're kind of like struggling to. Do you find that to be
yeah. So
accurate?
it's a one-off. I don't have a lot of chances to play it, but when you start drawing a lot, the only thing you really care about are the enchantments that keep you going. So you end up with 10 lands in hand that you have nothing to do. You will discard at the end of turn. So yeah, having an avenue to spend your mana and discard your lands to draw, that's great, and it really helps as an engine. But here it's going to be a win con. I think we're foreshadowing the end, but uh, this is the almost. I think maybe it's the first or second time that I've used it this way.
Yeah, I think you had like 10 mana just now off your Star Sanctum, and then I think you just discarded like 3 lands and just drew 3 cards. Like, that's insane.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, because I have almost like all lands and I replenish and something else, but yeah, because if I had any enchantment, I would have played it. If I had frantic search, I would have used it. And I think at some point here, I will draw Words of War. And then I start doing all the math. All the math that I cannot do with the dice. That's why it takes so long. Because I'm trying to see if I have an avenue. Yep, here it is. Yeah. I'm using, I think, a Fertile Ground to get the red mana in order to be able to play it.
mm-hmm.
So without the combo, you really need a lot of you really need draws to convert into damage. So usually you would do it with enchantments, but if you want to keep the enchantment chain going, you need you're using all your draws for Words of War. You're gonna starve yourself, and I really wasn't able to give you another turn. I think it would have been lethal for me.
Yeah, my whole game plan here is, if I untap, then I'll sacrifice my Sterling Grove, go get Opalescence. Now, you just made me use my 4th counter on the Parallax Wave. So now I'm thinking, because I'm going to lose the last counter to Fading on my upkeep. So now I'm trying to think of an alternative method of what am I going to do, because now I've been forced to use all the counters of my Parallax Wave. So I can't just go get Opalescence now and um,
Yeah, you need to draw another wave for.
mhm.
Yeah.
I think my thought here is I do have an Aura Silence in my hand. I do know that. I think I've just hoped to untap, cast the Aura Silence, and then go from there,
Mm-hmm.
blowing up the Words of War, because despite everything else on the board, the card that I'm just staring at constantly right now is the Words of War. I'm like, this thing is going to kill me if I'm not
Yeah.
careful. There's another frantic search. So
So at this point, I think I have like 7 or 8 lands in my hand, and I'm thinking whether I should try to use them to draw to get a better chance of the normal combo. If I find a way to kill your board and get my fairies back, but then I think, okay, I'm overthinking this. With this deck, it's like you're thinking about like infinite loops and so on, but sometimes if you have enough draws to deal 19 damage, you're good. Like you don't need to go infinite damage. So once I realize what I have in my hand, I'd say, okay, I think I'm actually gonna go with finite damage without any combo, but that should be enough.
I really like how you kind of shifted the cards in your library over there just for a second. Like it just goes to show how thin your library is at this point too.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I
have
don't
a
know how many cards are left in there, but probably I'd say less than 10.
yeah. Yeah, so the combo that like the ability that I'm gonna use is pay 1 colorless to discard a land and draw a card, and pay another colorless for Words of War to swap that drawing for a 2 damage. And then I'm just doing the math.
Yeah, so in my earlier iterations of Enchantress, I used to always play Words of War, right? And sometimes that was Words of War could be difficult to do the math, especially in the heat of the moment. Like it's nice when you have a ton of um, mana to work with, a ton of enchantments in hand, then it's just easy. But like if you don't have like the perfect scenario, or you're thinking like, well, how am I going to get the most out of this Words of War each turn? It can be kind of difficult because you got to count up the mana that you're going to sink into the Words of War. Then you got to consider how much damage it's going to be and where it's going, and then you got to determine how many draw triggers am I going to have. Am I going to use them all? Because the cool thing about Words of War is like you've got 3 enchantresses in play, for example. Like you could deal 2, draw 2, or you could deal 4 and draw 1, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not forced to, unless you activate the Words of War first, like you're not forced to spend all of your draw triggers on Words of War if you don't want to, right? So you have full control over whether or not you're just going to go all in on Words of War.
Yeah, I think that the best choice would be to draw the first card, like draw the first Enchantress trigger. If you see that that's an enchantment, you're good. You can use the other 2 for damage because you know you can keep the chain going. Yeah. So here I think I discarded 7 lands and inflicted 14 damage.
Yeah.
And you're down at 5.
And you're
And I
still
think now I'm
counting.
gonna because now I'm thinking I'm very afraid of their board, and so I played a tide, and I get 3 triggers. I would have gotten 3 triggers with any other enchantment, but I thought you might have an ace on your sleeve, and now with the 3 triggers I inflict 6 damage, and that makes it. But I have the replenish on my hand. Yeah, but I think any mistake on my part, it would have been like a win directly on your end because your board was critical.
Yeah, and your last turn there was absolutely insane. I mean, you started off with no words cards, a single Argothian Enchantress, right? And by the end of that same turn, you had played 2 more Enchantresses out. You got your Words of War into play. You got trade routes online, which helped also fuel the Words of War. And you untapped times, like all in the same turn. It was absolutely incredible to watch. It was just insane, and I was just, even before the tide came down, I think when I saw you untap the last time, I was like, I'm dead. Like despite anything else, I think now he's just, because my only hope was deal some damage, Words of War, fine. Choke yourself on mana. Okay, that's all I could do for the turn. Now I get to untap and maybe I can find a way out of this. Where uh but when you untapped with the frantic search on the last time, I was just like, oh, now he's got he's got another sanctum. He's got multiple enchantment or multiple lands with enchantments on them. Like there's no hope for me.
Yeah, I think it was kind of like a coin toss. Like if I had a butt drawing on the beginning of the turn, I wouldn't have been able to place like the second Enchantress or something like that. I think I would have stalled completely because you already had the Words of Wind covered by having it destroyed the previous turn, and you were removing all the Cloud of Fairies. So I think it was just the luck of the draw to be able to keep the chain going without the usual engine pieces.
Yeah, and like I'd say to be behind, like I would consider you going into that last turn to be behind, because I think after I cast a replenish, I think I showed a method of I can probably win next turn if you don't kill me this turn, and you pulled
Yeah,
it
you could
out.
tutor any enchantment and you could play it. So that was enough for me to
Yeah.
fold.
So to find that you were able to assemble the turn that you did, I was very, very impressed, and I thought it was just very awesome. And I was a little disappointed because I was like, I remember going to the last turn, I was like, I think I got him, I think I got him, I think I got him, and then the Words of War comes down, I'm like, no. But that's like what's so scary about your deck too, is it's not just like you don't always see the end coming. Well, at least I don't. Right?
But you don't see it as the driver either, like because it's like in a casino. You're betting twice every like. Yeah, I lose. Okay, I'm gonna bet twice the amount and twice the amount, and you hope that in the end it pays off. And many times it doesn't pay off, and then everything just deflates. And you finish the turn with like 15 mana, and it disappears, and you have nothing to show off. So it's very gambly in this aspect, or maybe you draw your deck off. But in this case, it worked well.
Yeah.
And the deck definitely showed how well
Sure did.
trade routes
Congratulations.
works. I love trade routes in Enchantress.
Yeah.
Yeah, that card's insane, and I think the Parallax Tide coming out the board too was that was brutal.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very good choice.
I know I completely forgot that you've
Yeah,
got Fertile Grounds
as I
in
was
there.
saying,
My brain was like, oh, Utopia Sprawl's not illegal. It's like, oh yeah, shit. Forgot about Fertile Ground for a
I
second.
wish it was.
Oh yeah.
There'd probably be Words of War in my deck if Utopia Sprawl was legal.
Have you thought of adding fertile grounds instead of wild growths to give some?
Oh, instead of Wild Growths? No, not instead. But there have been versions in the past where I played 4 Wild Growth and 4 Fertile Ground, and I was actually really impressed by that for a while. But over the years, I've been convinced more and more that trying to splash other color enchantments isn't easy to do and comes at a cost at the consistency of mana and everything. And we found with exploration, like just multiple copies of exploration, you can usually chain those back to back to a point where um, it's more about like the amount of mana you have as opposed to, well, I can produce red for Words of War or black for Engineer Plague or things like that. Like you're so far ahead at that point on mana and resources that it almost doesn't matter.
Less vulnerable, I guess, to land destruction, because
yeah.
And
when they blow a land with 2 enchantments on it, you want to kill yourself.
yeah,
It
and then
completely cuts you off.
yeah, and so with the advent of both Parallax Tide and when the Oath Ponza deck started coming around, which is still around, but when it was just a clear sign like I probably shouldn't play Fertile Ground anymore, because then you've got 8 cards that are vulnerable to land destruction, targeted land destruction, either via wave or Winter's Grasp or whatever. So if Wild Growth wasn't as powerful as it is in um, getting your like enchantments online faster, like a turn 2 Enchantress's Presence, or being able to play Argothian Enchantress plus 1-drop enchantment on turn 2, those sorts of things, then maybe the list would look different. Maybe Wild Growth would have to take a back seat. But it's so good at doing what it does already that it's just like I don't see cutting.
That makes sense.
But in those matchups where there is either Parallax Tide or targeted land removal, then I do find myself having to remove Wild Growth because I don't want to lose a land and an enchantment, right? Like give my opponent more value than is necessary. So in that sense, it's nice to have exploration as a way to circumvent the land loss because I can play 2 lands in 1 turn, as opposed to playing a land that taps for 2 mana because I put an enchantment on it and then losing that land again next turn. So
Yeah,
you
and
can
you have enough
actually,
draw to have the lands in hand. It's not like playing exploration, but you're starved of lands.
right. So if you can get like multiple enchantresses online, start playing like, here's an exploration, here's a land, here's another exploration, here's another land. Like you can start getting yourself in a position where you can outpace the 1-for-1 targeted land removal, and that's except for in the case of Parallax Tide, obviously, but um, that's where like exploration becomes like Utopia's Brawl, I guess.
Mhm.
Good way to look at it.
Yeah, I played yesterday at the SoCal tournament, and I had round 1 Terraponza, round 2 Tide, round 3 Terraponza. So it was really brutal. All this
Mhm.
land destruction. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think the
people love
tropical
land
enchantment.
destruction in Premodern. I don't know why, but they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hated Tide in
So
LobsterCon. It's like, oh, really?
yeah,
I think I won 2 games though with
I
0
lost.
cards in deck. I was like, yes. Didn't want to end there, but it's like got there.
Oh my gosh, I wish I had my notes for LobsterCon. Like the day 1 event, I think I faced uh, Blue Dreadnought, um, Oath Panza, Terragun, like almost every round. Like when you went down my
Yeah.
list, almost every deck that I played against had either Rashad Port, Armageddon, Parallax Tide, or targeted land destruction in the case of Oath Panza. I was just like, oh my god. So like Sacred Ground and Sabo Swipe did a lot of work
Yeah.
that event.
Mhm.
But yeah, people definitely love their land destruction, which is unfortunately can be a good way to fight against Enchantress, I think.
Yeah.
Do you find land destruction being a giant problem with your version of Enchantress? Or do you feel like you can um, like put your enchantments out, like your Photo Grounds and your Wild Growths, but then bounce them back before they
Yeah.
become a problem? Like,
So I think it's easier for me to fight against a tight deck because they need more turns to put it online, and then I have enough resources to survive a tight, even if they remove them completely.
mm,
If you go like Oath Ponza, and they play turn 1 land and Mox Diamond, second turn they start like destroying lands, then it's pretty tricky for me to recover. Which is funny because I think my top 8 match is gonna be against such a deck. But yeah, I think actually reading some history of this deck, so Tropical Enchantress was pretty high on beginning of 24, and I think it started to fall out of favor with the rise of the Oath Ponza decks, and
mhm.
I think it's very vulnerable. Yeah, because turn 2 land destruction, you have 8 and 10 lands, so you're gonna be using them a lot, and it's brutal. Also, it has way more non-basic lands than your Enchantress. So that means also Wasteland it's gonna kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
I hate to cut
that
you guys
was
off,
that
but
was definitely one of the reasons why I stopped working on. Oh,
you can finish up your thoughts.
Right.
oh, yeah. I was just gonna say that it's one of the reasons why I stopped working on. But one of the things that I did like about it is I found playing it online that I could build an arbitrary storm count with the deck just by doing what it naturally does.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for a way to kill people with brain freeze.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I haven't explored that, but I think it would be yeah. Yeah, because you might be like doing like 10 and 10 spells easily in one of the turns, and even if you don't blow off, you're gaining
Yeah,
time.
just cast this,
Yeah.
recast this, bounce this, recast it, and suddenly you're just like, oh, do I have a storm count of like 12? Cool.
Yeah, maybe that's the next iteration. I really want to try splashing blue and having the parallax side always there because it always helps
Yeah, that
in
was that
at
was
the
fun.
thing in my matches. So maybe that would give me maybe less explosiveness but more more control and being less vulnerable.
Yeah, it was strong, real strong.
Well, thanks
Cool.
again,
That was
guys.
a great commentary. I'm happy to have recorded the match.
Yeah,
Thanks a
it was
lot for
definitely a
having
fun
us
time.
on, Andrew. This is great.
Sure thing, guys. Sounds like I got to run for the kids upstairs, but
Cool.
otherwise, congrats. Great match, all 3 games, and Gabe, congrats, and see you in the top 8.
Thank you.
Later,
Awesome.
guys.
Good
Cool.
luck, buddy.
Thanks for doing this. See ya.
Bye.